Hello one and all, and welcome to the UKEL Student Proving Ground. I am Initialize. I am joined by Doctor, and it would be remiss of me not to shout out Phil on production, who will be your production crew for the evening. Hope you stay for a long time and enjoy your in-flight entertainment. Doctor, Barrage versus Resolve. Going to be a fun one.
Absolutely. I mean, Resolve coming in with a lot to sort of try and prove for themselves right now. Only team to not pick up a win so far. Only team to not be 2-1. The rest of the table having a nice little sort of trifecta up against each other. And the way that this has sort of worked out is that Barrage now come in as the first seed, which means they'll be playing against this last place 4th seed of Resolve. And the reason that Barrage are the first seed is going to be based on shortest game time, which was really only a couple of minutes in it either side, as we'll see here.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah, how it all panned out on the day, or days, over the starting round robin.
Indeed, wants to keep an eye out. Part of why Barrage managed to find their way up into that first place, as we mentioned, is the timer. And a lot of that is on their ridiculously quick win in Game 2 there versus London. It was a little bit of an interesting one, sort of a turnaround, bit of a rapid end, catching people out. And that definitely helped them out. But again, it's not like Barrage have been flawless. There are inroads, I think, for Resolve to come and compete aggressively in this semi-finals. It's a best of 3. Lots of things can happen, especially if you're good at adapting. And, you know, it's a rough way to start. The games were only yesterday, so not a lot of times to work on stuff. You know, again, a lot of these guys haven't played together for a long time. You know, they basically pick up in a lot of ways. So it's difficult for Resolve, but it's not like Barrage are flawless, I guess, is where we're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to look at the sort of dynamics of the teams. I mean, you talk about players not having played together for a long time. You look at Barrage, they were put together on like Saturday or something.
Yeah.
They end up coming through, having about a day of notice that this was going to be the squad. I don't think they got any scrims coming through before their first game. Judging by a tweet from Jojo, I think he mentioned something about that. But at the same time, you've got players like Jojo on the team, who's been around for a very long time. He's played across multiple teams, so he's quite comfortable swapping in and around, coming into a new organization, a new situation. That's sort of very fine for that top laner. But then you look over at Resolve, and you've got, for example, players like Porp. Now, Porp is a great jungler by all accounts, but he's played on the same team as his university for the longest time. He's made a great duo with the mid laner Sean. But then we look over and say, hang on, this isn't Sean, this is Orsa. And Porp Sean, they've been a combo for like 3 years or something now, as this great mid jungle. And now we're seeing what happens when Porp isn't paired up with Sean. And it just makes for a very interesting bit of interplay here, because this is a student proving ground, and it's really nice to see what happens when you take the students out of their comfort zone and start to mix and match them around a little bit.
It's called proving grounds for a reason, right? And not all of that is going to be off, existing teamwork. There is something to prove about being able to pick it up and play with other people. And that's not necessarily all the skills you'll need to show at a competitive level. Don't get me wrong. I definitely wouldn't want to put that out there. But at the same time, you do have to commend people who can just slot into teams, change their play styles up, or find ways to communicate and come online. And Resolve are going to have to try and pick that up a little bit. And I think that probably is right to call out Porp and Otter. I mean, I've been talking with Trajan, with Nymera. Both of these guys had done a lot of work. We're casting around these guys, and they were sort of saying, look, this guy, Porp, this Otter, is fantastic. He could absolutely be a star of the tournament. Porp as well, really good. And if they do want to come up against the likes of Sweet Summer Day, who had some fantastic Jarvan games like Necro, then you got to hope they step it up here today. We are into picks and bans. Barrage will be over on the blue side, Resolve over on the red. Few bans coming through already. Karthus and Thresh, and on the other side, what a surprise, it's Necro's Vladimir off the table.
Yeah, got to get that one away. Barrage did come through with the side selection for this first game, and then this is because of their higher seeding.
Of course.
Over the course of the series and, the later on in games, it's going to be the loser has side selection for the next game. Could be Barrage again, could be Resolve. Depends, obviously, how that game goes. As we look out across the rest of the bans, we got the Rel taken away, very strong first pick. But now we got a couple of options. We have things like the Hecarim is still open, Morgana up and available, and that's something that Porp has been known to play in the jungle, has been buffed recently as well.
I mean, Morgana jungle is definitely pretty scary. He's already pulled out things like the Rumble already yesterday again.
Porp is an innovator in the jungle. But if you're if you're tired of seeing Hecarim, Udyr, you're probably still going to see them.
But this is the guy.
But Porp sometimes doesn't. He's been busting out the Poppy for years. As you said, putting out the Rumble. He's played a fair bit of Morgana before the buffs. And so, if you're looking at those things on the fringe, like Diana, also still available, still being let through, again, Porp could well be your guy.
Is it time for lane Lee Sin though? I'm saying
that's 100%. If that's a Lee Sin, that's JoJo.
It's been something. Instead, they're looking around instead to Callista. Worth noting that the Hecarim, as we said, has stayed up and available. It's not first picked. It's Kai'Sa for Bio Chipmunk. Also worth noting, Easy Game GG, those two super hard engaged champions, Rel and Leona, just off the table. I mean, things like Alistar are still out there, but, just the sheer CC chains you can pull off with things like Rel and Leona, pretty unique to those champions.
Yeah, but interesting that, some of those priority jungle picks left behind, and you can make the argument here that when we look at Barrage, they're like, yeah, we're okay with, you getting the Hecarim or the Morgana or the Rumble or whatever, because, Resolve, you can have one of those picks, we'll take the other. Because of the Tristana ban, we want to get the high priority marksman through and pick up the Kai'Sa for ourselves. With the Thresh off the table as well, that means you're probably not going to be seeing a Jinx, and so the pool a little bit pinched, so the early Varus comes through.
Varus plus Hecarim, that's a fairly interesting duo, especially considering we saw a lot of Varus yesterday. Specifically, Lethality Varus with Halo Blades. Hell, we saw a Prowler's Claw Varus be able to go through the minion to get better Chains of Corruption off. It was some fun tech coming out from Varus, a few different builds across the day, so I think Delay will be feeling pretty happy to have that, and now we've got to see what the responses are. Udyr is still available, but so is Diana, who has been tearing up solo queue. I get, involuntary shudders every time I see that champion locked in at the minute.
I'm just perma-banning it beyond... I had a game...
It's really not blessing.
Level 5 champions 1v2ing and out-sustaining, but everyone's damaged. I'm like, you know what? There's probably some counterplay to this one, but she wins the burst fight, she wins the long fight as well. Which fight doesn't she win? That'll be the question that needs answering in this game, because... although we said Porp was the kind of person to go ahead and pick up those fringe picks, we also said you're probably just going to see Hecarim anyway. And so that one's locked in for Porp, and the response of the Diana. And now we've got a really nice dive composition coming through from Barrage. You've got the Kai'Sa, the Nautilus, the Diana, all these champions looking to just send it onto the backline and bring in a hefty amount of CC as well.
Indeed. The attempted response is going to be the Galio, of course, not a bad way to defend from people coming diving in, especially because it's a Diana who does a lot of magic damage, and that magic damage shield from Galio can be quite useful. Of course, also pairs it pretty well with the Hecarim, right? So you can kind of both dive at the same time and see who blows up the backline faster. No,
this is really nice, and especially versus the Nautilus in lane as well.
Good call,
Galio, a pretty good pick versus those engaged supports. He makes a nice meat shield and then blocks up a fair bit of damage. Now you are losing a little bit of potential threat that the Varus might like to have in lane, because Varus is very long range, he has a fair bit of poke alongside him, but at the same time, Galio has decent wave clear, he's got his Winds of War, he's got his passive, and those synergize very well with the Targons as well. So, I think down in the bot lane, Varus is still going to be able to do what he wants to do when it comes to controlling the lane early on. We'll just have to see if that's still, or if that, if the safety that the Galio wants to bring to the bot lane will still be there, or if it's just going to be level 2, we'll send it anyway, and Chipmunk and Easy Game may well be able to find themselves a couple of kills.
Into this second phase of bans as well at this point. That's a lot of top lane focus from both of these teams. Jojo having that Cho'Gath and the got removed. It's the Darius pickup away from Hampot. I believe he was the one who pulled out yesterday. I know somebody is. I think it was Hampot. I might have to throw that over to production to confirm. I'm pretty sure on that one, but I'm having a moment of insecurity, so you never know. And that final ban there is the Aatrox, so it is just 4 lane big bruiser meatballs that have just been taken off the table, and a couple pocket picks at that.
I got that, just get him out. We don't want anything too spicy up in the top lane, because you look at the composition for Barrage here, and it's dive. We've got the Diana, Kai'Sa, and Nautilus, so you just want a nice and safe tank up in the top side. If you can get it, someone who can just enable that dive. And a champion like an Aatrox, like a Darius, they're going to make that one just a little bit harder to pull off. However, you're still going into a Galio and now a Seraphine as well, so maybe Barrage are going to try and see if they can pull back a little bit, see if they can try to change, and don't want to really overcommit too hard into this Hecarim, into the Galio, into the Seraphine, because even with those bullies taken out of the way, there are still a couple of champions that can help with this disengage. Things like the Gnar, the Gragas, the Gangplank, potentially.
Good choices. Just something to maybe add a little bit more dimension to your combo. So either that will go even deeper on the dive. Like, just try and blow your way through that counter-engage potential. And looking like they're going to go towards the Scion, which can certainly be a big front line you were calling for. It's another way that can dive in. So I guess it's just a solid tank with ways. Yeah, it does a little bit.
I mean, Scion at the end of the day is really almost the only true tank that still exists in the game, because tank itemization,
it's not great right now.
It was a rough one coming through Season 11. No one thinks too fondly of Season 5, Poppy, Echo, Iceborne Gauntlet, Sunfire, Spirit Visage. You're good. But at the same time, when you're playing a tank and you look at the items and you're like, okay, every magic resist item is like 70% gold efficient, you look at things and it's like, oh, Edge of Night gives more health than, a Dead Man's Plate or something. You're like, all right, well, maybe being a tank is going to be a little bit hard, but if you're Scion, you don't have to worry about that one. You're getting free health from the minions, but that is something that Hampot will be looking to capitalize on with that set. Nice little counterpick in the lane, and again, bringing Disengage to your table to help dissuade anything too spicy from Sweet Summer Day and easy game.
Yeah, another bit of Disengage, another bit of pseudo-engage. You take that Scion who's going to be stacking all that HP and you slam it down onto a Kai'Sa and a Malzahar and a Jungle Diana. Like, they're going to really regret that damage that comes through from the Showstopper. I mean, also just things like, Seraphine plus Hecarim. I've been talking to Maple Street, who's been talking a little bit about some of the Japanese scene, which I've been covering a fair amount of. And he's saying, look, the reason we're seeing less Shen is because Seraphine just does his job better with Hecarim. You provide shields on a lower cooldown, and the Encore over Hecarim is just disgusting. Really nasty combo. You don't have to rely on the taunt. Right. So it's been a bit of a combo. It's been partly the replacement option instead of the Shen, at least according to some of those analysts a little bit further east than us.
Well, here's a question. Does Seraphine's W, when it looks for shields, does it count magic shields? Like, does it count Galio's ult? It's almost entirely inconsequential. If the Galio is ulting in and the Seraphine is within the Galio ult, something's gone wrong. So you shouldn't ever need to know this information. But at the same time, that could be pretty nice if you get
it's a shield. You'd think with the double cast, it probably would count. You'd think so. Again, I've not tested it, but worth keeping our eyes on. Of course, that additional healing comes through on the if you're already shielded or if you get to do the double cast, of course. So keep our eyes on whether that actually plays out. Taking a step back at this point as well, Doxer. We've got our two comps, both relatively heavy on the die, but a bit more of the counter engage over resolve. You've had a chance to look through it. We've talked about some of the individual mechanics we might be looking at in this one, but who are you favouring now you've seen everything out on the table?
I think I have to go over and if we're looking at draft in particular,
yes,
I think Resolve are in a pretty good spot right now. They have the poke and the sustain because of the Varus and Seraphine both coming through. They've got great disengage with the Set and the Galio to counter what Barrage are looking to do, but then they also have the opportunity to engage themselves if they so choose. You've got the Hecarim, the Varus, the Set, the Galio. You've got a lot of options. You can be quite flexible with it, whereas for Barrage, it's like, okay, we're going to dive or hopefully make a pick. And it just seems a little bit, not one note, but we'll call it, 3 notes, 4 notes, as opposed to like 7 from Resolve. So you do kind of like that one on Resolve's side. The other thing that I think is very valuable to a team is the fact that this Varus can go lethality, which isn't, in of itself particularly massive when you're against, like a Scion, a Nautilus, and even a Diana who can get a little bit tanky. But it does allow you to at least build Serpent's Fang, which I think is a relatively broken item. Not that broken, but somewhat slept on. And when you're looking at Kai'Sa, a Nautilus who's probably building a Locket, Diana with her W shield, and a Scion as well, suddenly this really does start to add up. If you get one good arrow through 2 or 3 people, half of that shielding falls off. That can make the difference of getting a kill, and that's a tool that won't be available to Barrage. So, from a purely draft point of view, I'm favouring Resolve, but at the same time, just a couple of weeks ago, NSE Finals came on through, and I gotta say, it didn't look great for Sweet Summer Day. It was it was a rough one, to say the least. Cabbage Family versus Robin's Cringes, 3-0 in favour of Cabbage Family, and Porp kind of rolled Sweet Summer Day every single time. Now, I think it was more of a, not like a team diff, but Sweet Summer Day not having the best meshing with the team when you compare to someone like Cabbage Family, who's been around for
Hell, they've been enabling Pork for years.
Yeah, exactly. So I would kind of also give Resolve a bit of, just based on the last time I saw those two junglers play, I was like, okay, this looked pretty good for Porp, pretty rough for Sweet Summer Day, but just yesterday these two junglers faced off, these two teams faced off, and we all know how that went.
Indeed, we do, and I think you're kind of good one to call out there, honestly, Doctor, because it's nice to say that, look, there might just be a touch of sweet, sweet vengeance on the table for Sweet Summer Day if they can get the advantage they managed to yesterday. Of course, they had Barrage did have a fairly strong day one Resolve, still not really meshing, and again, it's only been a day less than really in terms of pure time metrics. Like it could get a bit tough if they haven't managed to pull out a lot from that day. And it's a good draft. We like it. I think you're right to call that one out. But if the sides of Barrage are just able to be decisive, I suspect you've got all the tools to just jump on Varus and blow him up, and the Galio Cult comes in and it's too late, and you just come and you're like there and you're on the corpse of your dead AD carry. And it's not like Varus has any escapes inbuilt, and he's got to deal with a Nautilus, a Kaiser, a Diana. Like those aren't exactly low dive options. That's a lot of ways to make that poor AD carry suffer a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, Barrage, they have the dive, but they also just can make picks, and as you say, if you get those picks fast and early, you can snowball the game into a point where it doesn't really matter how much disengage is coming through from Resolve.
It's too late.
It's too late. Yeah, you're either getting one hit before it comes on through, or it's like, well, are we going to burn a full Galio ult just to try and save one person? There's a lot of ways this could go, but right now, it's 0-0 on that scoreboard. So we're loading on into the first game of this best of 3 Barrage on the blue side, Resolve on the red.
Some beautiful camera work there as well. Nice cinematic intro as down the mid lane barrel Barrage, but they'll just flash some mastery emotes. Shockingly, not a mastery 6 or beyond. There's finally a mastery 7. Well done, Bio Chipmunk. You've earned my respect there. And we're gonna see how it all plays out. That level 1 near attempt there from Barrage didn't really go anywhere, and it just leaves us with a 5-man fan and no real craziness yet.
Yeah, though I would say interesting to note, we look over at Porp, he's gone for the Conqueror and the Red Smite, which makes me think that maybe he's not as 100% sold on that Chem Tank full tank build. Now, you could definitely still do the Chem Tank tank build with that setup, but usually, Red Smite and Conqueror are people who are looking to build a little bit more damage and go a little bit more aggressive. Something we'll probably expect to see a lot more of next patch once those Hecarim, kneecaps do come on through.
He's got 4 of them to take off, so that's a fair amount of kneecapping.
Yeah, to be fair, it takes a while.
It probably would, that's not even 2 minutes into the game, and I've already taken us on a tangent. I apologise. Sweet Summer Day starting his blue buff as Porp does the same on his side of the map. We will kind of wait and see whether Hecarim does decide to go towards maybe not a Chem Tank, which would be a shock to us all as an early level 1 dredge line onto his Hyzelot, which was a little bit rough. Half the HP bar just taken up. Of course, does have a couple pots in inventory, but not the way you want to start at level 1.
No, really not. Ceding over control of the lane here, and now sets up for a very scary level 2 coming through from the Nautilus and the Kaiser. What's that lane is particularly known for, but you see, the health bar's already low.
Another dredge line. Hyzelot going down. The heal forced out by delay. It's flash from Bio Chipmunk and the ignite down from Easy Game GG though, so there are summoners burnt, and Hyzelot is getting to stay around in lane. It costs them bot side pressure. It might well cost them an easy option to get towards a scuttle grab for Resolve, but some aggression from the side of Barrage early on.
Yeah, but now Hyzelot has to be so scared because, sure, the flash was burnt from Chipmunk, but not by Easy Game, and with a health bar that low, with the heal not available, you may not need the ignite. As you say, control of that crab given up a little bit, but, Porp's not really playing towards it anyway. He started on the bot side, so that crab was going over either way, and by crashing that second wave in, there's a little bit of an option here for Barrage to let that try and bounce back. I didn't get a proper look on if that's actually going to happen or not, but that looks like that one's bouncing back, which is going to be pretty scary for Hyzelot. So he can't really walk up, can't get his targets procs, and could well be losing that flash pretty soon as Sweet Summer Day just finishes off those Krugs.
Indeed, he's going to be around. He can look for a gank as that wave shoves out. At the same time, you can see Porp just on this top side Scuttle Crab, so it'll be a trade of those Scuttles, and with Nautilus going out to assist Diana in removing the shield with his hard CC. Probably gives it away for Delay and Isolot, but they probably want to be playing a little bit safe in this lane.
Yeah, but they should be expecting this one, knowing that, yep, Chipmunk and Easy Game did not leash, and bearing in mind that Porp didn't run into Sweet Summer Day up at that top crab. We've had a pretty simple exchange of those as Isolot walking up a bit far.
There's no flash. Isolot flashes and leaves to lay out to dry. He flashes to try and save his life now. And now Sweet Summer Day may have gone a little bit too far. Look who's here? But Hampot, who's going ham. The Facebreaker is huge. Otter is here as well. But Necro turns up afterwards. It's a full 5-man gang aside from Porp, who hasn't quite managed to get here yet. The 9-man party will mean that Hampot gets the first blood. In goes Isolot trying to get something. Knocker! Finally a 1-for-1. Bio Chipmunk and Easy Game GG stay alive somehow, some way. Porp comes in with a devastating charge, but Jojo is alive. It's a 1-for-1, and I do not know how the bot lane and the top lane of Barrage stayed alive thus long. It might not be done yet because Porp, with his health bar, might still try and find a little bit more.
Well, he's high up on health, but he has not got the ghost. Won't be taking that dive any further, but whoa, that teleport turning out to be a double TP really threw Barrage through a loop as Porp also managed to grab himself a couple of chickens on the back there. But what a roller coaster of emotions that fight was, from the hook originally hitting onto Delay, but then the teleport's coming on through as well. Ends up just being a 1-for-1, but I have to say that one goes over in Resolve's favor. I believe they got the first blood. They're getting the kill onto someone who's a little bit more of a carry as opposed to a tank of Jojo, and it also just alleviates a lot of pressure away from their bot lane, who was sweating quite a bit before that fight. But now, you know, a lot of summoners being blown by Chipmunk and by Easy Game means that they just have a little bit more breathing room to work with.
In all honesty, Harry, I think they were sweating during that fight. The moment Isolot avoids the hook and leaves Delay out to dry and tank it for him, I thought it was a done deal. But the flash out got him, so it kept him alive. The double teleport for the turnaround kept it even in the end. But that was about as close to the wire as you could possibly play it. Sweet Summer Day just been spotted out, which means that Hampot is actually going to turn around. Throws down the knuckle down. Sweet Summer Day gets pulled back. Afterwards, nice little combo there. The decimating strike does its work, but Porp at least gets one. The shields from Otter is there as well. And that's the mid-jungle synergy we were hoping to see from this squad. Resolve pick up 2 quickly there in the top side of the map.
Oh, just picking up free gold and putting it through onto Porp as well. And it's a bit of a greedy invade from Sweet Summer Day. Doesn't have the mid prio and doesn't really have the top prio either, because yes, Jojo has the wave pushing in, but it hasn't quite hit the tower, and so Hampot free to just move to run on down with that speed boost from the Q, get involved in the fight before Jojo can, and so it's sort of a series of 1 versus 1s instead of a 2v2, and then of course Otter turning up at the end as well, continuing this little bit of a gold lead here for Porp and for Resolve. As we see, down the bot lane, we've got full health bars, we've got the wave going back towards Barrage, so Delay and Isolot, after that sort of reset, they managed to get away with that rough level 1, rough level 2, and even out the state of the lane. Now, we see that Porp is building towards a bit more damage as he looks to pick himself up the...
Force.
Yeah, he's either getting himself the Sunder or the Trinity Force. Could go either way.
Sorry, it will be Sunder, of course, because the Kindle Gem in there, and I'm so used to that going into...
yeah, Kindle Gem goes into both.
It does, I'm so... The thing is, I always second guess it, because obviously Trinity Force changed in the preseason, and and I kept getting it wrong earlier on, so I kept double checking, and now I double check it even though I know. So it's like, yeah, that's what it is. Wait, no, I have to double check
They get
this.
Phage, and you're like, oh, it's a Triforce. Wait,
that's
no.
it, exactly. And it's like, wait, no, that was what I used to... The thing is, I do know better. I do, but every time it's just I've got it ingrained. Like I've managed to train myself Pavlovian style to be a little bit scared of seeing the Kindle Gem in Hecarim inventories. Oh boy, in the mid lane now, Otter's in trouble. Flash Nether Grasp is a very dead Seraphine. Porp was around, but just not quite quick enough, even with the devastating charge active. And Barrage finally find a bit of a pick to the good in their own name.
And that is a pretty important kill to pick up there for Barrage. Try to bring that scoreboard a bit closer, but also just lowers the risk of that potential drag. And you see that Delay is in a good spot. Porp was in a really good spot. and a Seraphine at those early fights, really vital, really brings a lot to the table. But by getting Otter out of the way, the early Cloud Drake may not be happening. Now Resolve are looking towards it just a little bit, but there is absolutely no mana on delay. Isolot not level 6 either. You can see the Honey Fruit being funneled in to allow delay to bring a little bit more to this one, but the contest will not come through from Barrage. It's only a Cloud Drake, so they'll let that one slide.
Nice timing from the Void Seeker and Biochipment, but only just shy by about half a second there, so no chance of the steal in the end. Good try though, and that does leave the Dragon over to Resolve, but the gold kind of been brought back to a lot more even as a decent little trade from the fully charged Decimating Strike in the top side. Hampot tries to turn it around with a Face Breaker, but I think that's another one that hits. So Hampot just takes 2/3 of the HP bar. Nice little bush play from Jojo. Got a bit of a shove in, but Porp in this jungle, going to try and charge onto Necro, who goes fleeing into the Encore. The CC chain is brutal, and it's a second kill onto this Seraphine.
Yeah, gotta be careful when you're using the flash to go in for those flash ults. As the Malzahar leaves you very susceptible. As the Crab was picked up, Sweet Summer Day could be looking to 1v2 this.
Here comes the unstoppable Sion charging his way into the flash over the wall for easy game GG! And Jojo gets a kill back. It's a 1-for-1 in the extended trade.
Yeah, I mean, a lot was burnt to find that kill onto Necro. Using both of the ultimates of Porp and Otter means that, yeah, when the turnaround comes back, with Jojo bringing in the ultimate, Sweet Summer Day turning up, there's not a lot left. The chains do not connect. That's another big cooldown lost for Resolve. But, you know, even if Porp and Otter had got that, or they did get the kill onto Necro, but even if they'd gotten away with it, they wouldn't really have been able to get too much. They wouldn't have been able to get the Herald, for example, having blown those cooldowns. And Sweet Summer Day, he's well aware of that one, so starts up the Herald themselves.
Yes, he is. He's very happy to be doing this. He's got a decent CS track right now. He's managed to get himself involved in a couple kills. Of course, died a couple times as well, but he's not feeling too bad here. But Porp is going to be around and could look to cause some customers. He's down, no ult, and there is an ult on Sweet Summer Day, so that Moonfall can definitely come through the teleport.
You need to hit the eye, brother.
And I think that could be very dead Hecarim. They lose the eye as well, and that's going to be instead Hampot coming in, but he's just going to get suppressed and run down. No way to get him. He does actually get the flash haymaker. I apologize. Somehow, some way, managed just to get something out of that. It's a 1-for-1 in the, or rather a 2-for-1 because Porp fell as well. But at least Hampot gets something back, even if it wasn't a particularly good trade.
Oh, managed to pick something up there. Losing that the flash will lose the teleport as well, and the Herald did end up going over to Sweet Summer Day. It's a little bit messy for Barrage, has to be said, you know. Necro, relatively slow, bearing in mind that Sweet Summer Day was doing that one for a while. And you have to expect that, yeah, we have the ultimate advantage on the Malzahar versus the Seraphine, so let's bring Malzahar in nice and early to secure it. But at the end of the day, the Herald is still secured. 14 minutes yet to pass on the clock, so Sweet Summer Day can be looking to try and funnel themselves a little bit of gold by deploying that one, potentially now down in the bot lane, because they do have that mythic spike.
There's the Hex Slash from EasyGame.gg. The dredge line hit. Here's the teleports back, but that is a depth charge onto Delay over the back of the wall. Trying to stay alive, but the damage back is huge. It's already one into the favor of Resolve. Sweet Summer Day does get another Lunar rushing his way around the fight to at least make it an even trade. The teleport got cancelled from Otter as well by the looks of it in mid. Quite sure. It must be the silence from Necro, but Heiselot's still feeling like he can trade in, just buying time as Porp comes steaming in, charges into Summer Day, throws down that challenging smite, looking to trade around, and one last Rampage will get that kill. 2-for-1 for Resolve from the bot end.
And even with the numbers advantage, when it was a 3v2, Barrage still wasn't really able to come out on top, and that's a rough one, because that's a big spike for Sweet Summer Day, having that mythic before anyone else, picking up that Night Harvester, but not being able to try and convert that into a lead. You know, if you get the advantage there, you drop the Herald, that's 2, maybe 3, possibly even 4 plates, depending on how many people stay alive down in the bot lane. But instead, a couple of deaths coming out now. The Trinity Force finished by Porp, just in time for this spawning Drake fight. And yeah, at the end of the day, Necro has the teleport, had the Never Grasp. After cancelling Otter, could just walk back, try to teleport in themselves. It doesn't particularly happen, and yeah, it's not the first time we've seen Necro be a little bit slow on the move to the fight. So I like to keep an eye on that one, see how it goes. As Chipmunk does have the ult.
It's the dredge line into the killer instinct. That's going to be a galley ult, but we said it might happen a little too late. It does
Pork's
at
coming
that.
in.
Bio Chipmunk now in trouble, though. Has burned for cleanse. It's going to have the onslaught of shadows come forward, but the route from Easy J and GG stops Hecarim from continuing the chase. Does burn a lot of summoners from Bio Chipmunk, but they get the kill and they get out. And 10 seconds before the Mountain Drake, they'll have the man advantage.
The Herald also being deployed on mid just in time. Gets a couple of plates over to Sweet Summer Day. Wasn't too involved in the fight, but still finds a way to make some gold. Meanwhile, though,
Jojo taking a bit of an ugly trade from Hampot, who does have the shield from the Haymaker, but turn around with the ult from Jojo, who just gets the solo kill! Scion Gaming, ladies and gentlemen. Someone check if there's a bounce up in that top side.
Yeah. Ooh. Jojo picks up the solo kill. Gonna go ahead and... Oh, never mind.
Otter just walks up and cues him. There you go. Throws down the Yone emote while he's at it. That's not how it works. He just won his beautiful 1v1. You don't take a man down when he's out high like that. I believe that'll be a shutdown as well. That's kind of good news for Otter.
Come on, man. Jojo got the solo kill. He was hoping to, you know, pick up a couple of creeps, maybe get himself some golden experience.
Filthy mid laners doing that whole roaming thing, you know, not leaving top lane on the island. Okay. Where's your passports? Come on.
Yeah, no.
Can't you gotta receive invitation from the laners to come up there. That's not how it works. All right, let's tell.
It's not the first time I've used that line, and it won't be the last.
That's a worrying sign, but here we are. Game 1 in. 8-8 is the kill score. It's 500 gold in the favour of Resolve, but that's not all that much really at the 15-minute mark here. A lot of mythics now starting to come through, particularly for these mid jungles of both teams who've been very involved in the kills. For the longest time, in fact, Sweet Summer Day was 100% kill participation until those last couple came through. Leandri's Night Harvester, Trinity Force was the pickup for Hecarim as that Chains of Corruption just goes wide. Couple opportunistic throws of that ultimate the last 2 times we've seen it, and all the while Sweet Summer Day just turns up top lane, and that'll be first turret blood going the way of Barrage.
Should pick themselves up a cheeky bit of extra moolah for that one, and right now we're seeing that Porp and Hyslot sort of looking around with Dragon, which has still got a couple of minutes on that one to spawn. But maybe they're looking for a bit of a play down here on to Bio and Easy Game with the summoners not available on Bio. Could be a bit more of a sitting duck than you might like, especially with Pork and Hyslop both having the ultimates available. But at the end of the day, could just be a little bit too forced, as now Necro and Sweet Summer Day are trying to walk up, but the wave clear coming on through from Otter means that tower won't be falling anytime soon, as this jungle support duo come on through, bring up just a little bit of reinforcements.
A lot of things to keep our eyes on as well. Speaking of interesting item choice, it's not the Moonstone on Seraphine. It is the Leandries, which is definitely a much heavier damage build, which I can sort of understand when you don't have that much true damage, or well, not true damage, damage in general on your team. Your Varus is your main damage dealer, and so I can understand it. I mean, Hecarim's gone towards the 24s, which makes him a lot more of a carry threat, but, you know, and he's against Set as well, not gone full tank, but adding in the Leandries as well makes this a higher damage comp than you might think at initial glance.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it works out pretty nicely as well versus all the health that is going to be built here. You see that, you know, Sweet Summer Day gets a fair bit of health when you get the Night Harvester. Jojo, obviously, you need someone that's going to be getting through that tank, and well, Hampot will be doing a fair amount to Jojo, but at the same time, Hampot might be wanting to dive or to disengage, so just to have a sort of continued DPS source to get through those tanks, it always works out pretty nicely. Having said that, Delayed not going for a lethality type of build, so he's also offering a fair bit of sustained DPS, so, you know.
Kraken Slayer hitting onto tanks, it's not a bad thing, especially with, once you get something like the Lord Dominic's Regard, sort of second or third as well, you feel pretty good as an AD carry at that point. But never mind all of those itemization queries we've been musing around for the last few moments. Hampot might find himself the response over his support roam, but Astro Nautilus will wade his way downriver and not look to get on top of the set. Instead, it'll be second Herald started by Barrage. They got the last one, it was a little bit unclean, I think is the way to put it. Wasn't the easiest take, but this time doesn't look like Resolve are going to come over and contest.
Although, meanwhile, HMRC have made their ways onto the Rift, what with it being April and all, as Porp, first member of Resolve to pay the taxes. Go ahead and grab that QSS to try and dissuade any ultimates coming through from Necro, but at the end of the day, there's still a fair couple of good targets. Hampot and Otter and Delay, if ever they come in range, either or could be looking to face Necro's grasp, and it's never really something you want to be on the receiving end of, which is why Porp goes ahead and gets himself a nice cheeky cleanse.
Indeed, he does. Ways to remove suppression, namely QSS, not cleanse, despite what people sometimes mistakenly think, of course, and that's an easy pickup for the Hecarim. Especially now he's got the Trinity Force, he's kind of happy, really, as far as damage goes. Everything else is just like extra things to make him tankier and faster. Or, in this case, to allow him to just keep moving, because Nether Grasp otherwise can make life very challenging. That, you know, as you mentioned though, nothing on Seraphine, nothing on Varus in particular. It's not a tank set as well, so he doesn't really want to sit there and take it either. So all of this stuff means that with this Infernal Drake now spawned, there's a few good targets for Necro, as we've both been saying. And Barrage have first move into the river.
Okay, Necro has the flash. Could well just flash ult to start off a fight. Or during the fight, you know, Otter and Delay, they probably want to be out of range, but they might not have that luxury. Jojo walking up a little bit, easy game. Could be looking for a hook.
There's a chance of corruption at the backstop. Sweet Summer Day coming forward. It's a decent face breaker, but out of the ult goes Set. He doesn't manage to get the showstopper through. Encore of Shadows. Also, Shadows on the other side. Make it an encore of Shadows means it's a couple back. Jojo finally falls, but in goes this Kai'Sa with the killer instinct. The exhaust buys time, but it's now just Otter alive. It is a 4-for-3 in the favor of Barrage. Necro and Bio Chipmunk survived all the way through to the end, and that Kai'Sa's health bar tells the story.
And there's just so many re-engages from Barrage in that fight. You know, at first, Jojo may be out of position, maybe exactly where he wanted to be starting off that fight. Hampot tries to go in, immediate just Nether Grasp right onto that before he can even get a Haymaker shield off, meaning that Hampot goes down pretty rapidly. And then what? Well, Sweet Summer Day jumps back in, starts the fight again, goes down, and then Bio Chipmunk jumps back in and starts the fight again. And at the end of the day, it's pretty hard for Resolve to get away from that one. And they lose the tower, lose the dragon, and lose quite a lot of their lives as Barrage start to reclaim their gold lead just a little bit. However, even with 2 towers being taken, it is still an incredibly close game when we look over at that gold.
Neck and neck. Well, close enough. There's an inch to Barrage right now, about 1,000-ish gold lead, just under. Crab at the top side might now be the next starting point as Pale Cascade comes out of Sweet Summer Day, who doesn't end up getting caught out for much more than a moment there with the taunt. And that'll be just Resolve backing away from the river, having claimed their Scuttle Crab prize. Couple more itemization options to keep our eyes on. It's Rhyalize second for Otter, which is not an item I see a huge amount of these days. And on the other side, Collector now complete for Kai'Sa. Definitely got that execute threshold up a little higher now.
Yeah, I'm not sure how necessary the Rhyalize is for Otter, but it is worth noting that the Rhyalize slow, for whatever reason, technically applies before the sort of the wave of Seraphine's
drop, yeah.
E. And so you do always get the root every time, which can help out. It means you don't have to, you don't have to go for the double cast of the E. You can instead go for that beat drop double Q, get yourself a lot of damage on an already rooted target. As that Herald about to time out, Sweet Summer Day, I'm gonna have to go ahead and give away their position, deploying that one in the bottom lane, unless you just choose not to. But I don't think that's going to be very likely, is it? That one gets dropped on down, and Otter gonna have to go ahead and give this one up.
That's the one. There goes the Herald. Back away goes Otter, and that will be third tower down for Barrage. Resolve still yet to claim a single tower this game, and considering the goal is still pretty close, considering that it's great news for them in some ways, but that just is a lot of map control now. Cedar, Sweet Summer Day, look to see whether they could find themselves a Crescent Strike, couldn't quite land it. Instead, Resolve just debating investigating this Baron, but just drop a ward down instead. I thought that might be a little risky, even if you have gotten, I was going to call it on-hit Varus, but it's not really true anymore, just auto-attack Varus, I guess. Traditional AD carry build Varus.
Yes, I mean, damage isn't on hit.
True, I suppose.
Got a W on hit.
Yes, I suppose it's not always an on-hit though, right? Like, I'm assuming abilities occasionally do damage as well, but I appreciate you trying to save me there. Thank you, buddy.
Well, also worth noting is that Highslot has gone ahead and grabbed themselves that Shurelya's as their mythic, and I was expecting maybe something like a Zeke's to go with that disengage, but having the move speed pretty nice for a Hecarim, of course. You'll be applying that one AoE when you drop your ultimate, and I don't know if Hyslop's maybe got the Font of Life coming through as well, potentially, which can really start to add up. In any case, trading off some of the defensive power that Zeke's might offer to let your team reposition in the fight or potentially re-engage and buff the Hecarim as well.
A bit of a mirror match in items for the mid lane as well, as the Rylai's picked up for Necro on this Malzahar as well. Nash's Tooth complete for Diana is great news for her as well. She's starting to come more and more online. Those 2 items plus Stopwatch makes her pretty scary as a dive threat. Stride Breaker in for Hampot. I think we're kind of getting to the point now where 2 items complete pretty much across the board. We get a pretty big team fight anytime soon.
Build hasn't changed in like 10 minutes. I would be curious to know how much gold he's sat on, unless it didn't have the tower something. Yeah, no, he's sat on like 2k, so Jojo could be...
got an item completion fairly shortly, you'd imagine.
Yeah, could be pretty close to having that finished Titanic. Obviously a massive spike for Sion, and in fact actually got buffed for Sion pretty recently when they changed that one over from scaling with your total health to your bonus health, as Sion kind of one of the only champions that can still really get bonus health in Season 11.
Soul Furnace does immaculate things for Sion's bonus health, that is for sure. It just, it's what makes him a true tank, as we were saying, really, is his ability to just get infinite health scaling. It's kind of dumb, or at least close to. All the while,
just how he can get health.
I know, right? At least, like I love the fact you just pull it back. Yeah, no, the fact he gets health at all is just a great news for a tank these days, honestly. There he goes and gets himself that Titanic Hydra just in time for the Infernal Drake, which will be spawning in 20 seconds. Doctor, who am I keeping my eyes on in the fight that is sure to break out?
Well, once again, Necro does have the Flash available for a Flash Never Grasp, but Hampot.
So does Hampot, going straight into Bio Chetmug, who's got himself a cleanse though. The Encore is fantastic to buy time. Taunt afterwards at the same time. In goes Sweet Summer Day, but Porp gets one back as Bio Chipmunk picks up 2. The Acathian Rain pours down on everyone. Otter goes golden, but he's got no flash. Jojo is there and gets a shutdown with a decimating smash. In comes the Gallia, but the heroic entrance will only lead to a heroic death, and a Medal of Honor is all he's going to be fighting in his 6-foot hole. Instead, that'll be a triple onto Jojo with his Titanic Hydra. That Sion is a monster.
That's the spike. That's the damage of the Titanic coming through. Again, multiple re-engages from Sweet Summer Day, from Bio, and Bio putting out huge amounts of damage once that dive comes on in, even through the exhaust. But once Chipmunk is taken out, Jojo still stands to be a damage threat that Porp just can't get through on his own at the end there, and means that another dragon goes over to Barrage, now putting themselves on that soul point. Just 5 minutes, and that Infernal Soul not really something you want to give over to this team comp.
No, it is not, and that is the real lead that is in this game. It's only a couple thousand gold, but an Infernal Soul point backed up by a couple Infernal Drakes. Hell, if they get the Infernal Soul itself, it'll be 3 Infernal Drakes to the good. That's gonna sting already when you're looking at a dive comp that contains so much execute power. That Kai'Sa in that last fight, again, finding some dangerous damage even though she was engaged on. At this point, I mean, Barrage, we said that their comp maybe was a little bit one note, but that note seems to be hitting a high all the time, even if Seraphine's on the other team.
Yeah, you gotta be, yeah, alright. Yeah.
Thank you. I was just gonna let that one slide, but thanks, I appreciate that.
Not gonna lie, I've got another zinger prepared.
Oh, beautiful. Well, never mind zingers, because Necro is looking to outshine the both of us and just never grasps his way to another #1 hit, or at least kill. Galio left for dead. Into the dirt he goes again for the 3rd time this game, and with Baron now up at 27 minutes and a Kai'Sa on 2 items, this Baron is getting lower and lower as Jojo, an easy game GG, just make it an absolute nightmare for Porp to even try and get in. But he's going to find his way in over the back and nearly gets the steal. Otter goes down, and at the back end of it as well, Hampot as well, even with the Stride Breaker, won't get anything. It's a triple to Chipmunk, but credit to Porp for finding a way into that pit.
I mean, Porp gave it a go, but it's too disjointed from Resolve. Porp's going in for the steal, but there's a fight at the red buff, there's a fight in the pit, it's all over the place, and you know, Bio more than happy to just leave the pits to keep up the DPS, to join the team, to get the fight going, knowing that Sweet Summer Day and Necro can finish off that Baron, even if it wasn't the jungler who picked up the objective. Barrage out with the ace, pushing on through. Grab themselves the inhibitor, but won't look for too much more. They're going to back away after Jojo picks up that tower in the top lane.
Ace, Baron, mid lane tower, mid lane inhibitor. It's looking pretty fantastic for Barrage right now alongside that tower and top side. As we mentioned, they'll go back and spend some of that well-earned gold and still have a fair amount of Baron buff to shove with. That is now a massive lead in favor of Barrage. It was close for a while. I don't think it's close anymore.
Oh no, and now Jojo getting off that back picks himself up the Thorn Mail as well. Makes for a pretty big spike for Jojo because now he actually has the choice of putting Grievous Wounds onto people. You know, if you don't want to get Grievous Wounded, just don't auto the Bramble Fest. But now if Jojo goes on in with the ultimate or a Decimating Smash, gets that knock-up, that will be applying that anti-heal to members of Resolve. And, you know, when you've got this damage Hecarim, who's...
Oh, dear.
Ooh,
he had QSS, it didn't matter. In goes High Salot as well. That'll be the third heroic entrance in a row that leads to a dead Galio at the backside of it. You can see Hamport trying to get out, but the Killer Instinct afterwards just leaves him for dead. Bio Chipmunk eviscerates Set, and who's the king of the pit now? The boss dies, Otter is left alone in the base, while Sion just
the solo bolo
doesn't take damage. That's a Leandri's burn, and that does not even 5%, it feels like, of Jojo's health right now. At least delay is now around and maybe available. Try and hold him, but that's a flash for the depth charge. Into the tower goes Jojo. Stunned even so. That's a decent stopwatch to buy time, but the flash is burned again. The encore is just that. It'll have to be next game that they come back on stage, because Barrage are ending it right here, right now.
Looking to close on out the first game. A couple of shutdowns traded back over Resolve. Find himself just a little bit of gold as Bio Chipmunk dives on into the fountain.
What an 8!
And yeah, oh, he didn't even die. Yeah, it did not go down to that laser. Managing to preserve the KDA as the first win of the series picked up for Barrage.
Absolutely, and it was close for large periods of that game. We saw it go back and forth. The early game plays around that bot lane were very close, but it just felt as we hit to those mid-game objective fights, particularly around the Drakes, and then the Baron fiasco. Barrage just seemed a little bit more on it, a little bit more put together, and managed to pull the trigger much more efficiently.
Yeah, it seemed that for Resolve just started to fall apart a little bit as you get to the more coordinated aspects of the game, and honestly I think that could be a little bit expected, you know, when you look over at Barrage where you've got Sweet Summer Dream and Bio Chipmunk, who have obviously been playing together for quite some time. They're you know, they've got that pre-built synergy coming on in already, and then also again having Jojo up in the top lane. That's a guy that's been around, knows himself some competitive Legend League. That one's always going to be pretty useful when it comes to, you know, needing someone to be making that decision or having that voice of reason, the shot calling. Whoever it is on the team, I'm sure that, you know, having Jojo and having that pre-established synergy really adds up. That lets you have a very clean mid-game and allows you to punish the aspects where Resolve not quite on it themselves, and we see how they can start to fall apart when the pressure gets put on.
Cleaner mid-game plays, maybe from a little bit of inbuilt synergy, get Barrage the win here in Game 1, but Resolve put up a great fight through the early and mid portions of the game. Series isn't done yet, though, Doctor. We're going to go to a quick break here for ourselves, and we're back in a few moments for Game 2. Barrage pick it up. They'll be moving on to the winners' finals. If they fall, we've got a bit more of a series on our hands. Stick around. We'll see how it goes in Game 2. Welcome back to the UKEL Student Proving Grounds for the Pokemon League. I am Ace Trainer Sam. I'm joined by Bugcatcher Doctor, and I've got my fellow companions here with me. Nymera brought that in briefly for Temporal, who I believe is in chat. And sadly, no, it's not the Pokemon League.
You were close to making an incredibly niche reference that nobody would have understood. It was my original email, which my brother made for me as a birthday present when I was 8, was Pokemon Trainer Harry and so on and so forth.
No, really?
So if you tweet that one a little bit, you would have made a banger of a line.
It was on the fly. There you go. For next time, maybe. I was nearly there. Nearly there.
Of all the types, I got to be a bug catcher.
Yeah, apparently so. It's maybe we should have thrown that to Phil, who's been trying to solve client issues all day with bug catching over there. So congrats over to him for the solid work on that. And instead, we're into picks and bans. I've got Lapras and Rowlet following my every move here, casting, which is. It is what it is. What you're going to do?
And on the other side, I look like a Scyther in real life.
That's it. That's it. I mean, look, mate, you're a Caesar, clearly. Come on, give
no,
yourself at least you're up in that tier.
Is that the red one?
Yeah, the one it evolves into. Okay.
I couldn't think of a lanky bug Pokemon. That's the one that's not Kookaburra, but it's close. I don't know.
Fair enough. All right, picks and bans. Game 2, Barrage. Up 1 game in this series at match point. It is a best of 3s, ladies and gentlemen. Still on the blue side are Barrage. They're banning away the Casters. They're banning away the Thresh. Resolve still getting rid of the Vladimir. Still getting rid of the Rel.
Now, Resolve choosing to keep themselves over on that red side. And we'll see what the final ban is going to be. Will it be the Tristana once again? And will Bio Chipmunk be allowed that first pick Kaiser? Because once those fights started up, Bio was looking pretty confident on that pick. So with Tristana off the table now, what's it going to be for Resolve? Are they going to get rid of that their Kaiser, or they keep their bans the same?
That's just it. Do we see a little bit of a change up? Because I mean, that Kaiser was pretty obnoxious, or is it just going to be a change up in the draft? Maybe they feel they've got other ways to answer it. It's just going to be the Leona, so the bans stay the same. Jojo thinking of flexing and first picking the set this time just to throw it in Hampot's face, and still flicking between those options, and maybe one day we'll see a lane Lee Sin. Don't think it's getting locked in first quite yet, though.
Not quite. Probably going to be another Kaiser pick. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. As Barrage, they had a pretty good time last time.
Indeed, they did. There's the Kaiser locked in for Bio Chipmunk. And a reminder, 12, 1, and 8 was the final scoreline. Pretty quiet in the early game, and then the team fights, as you mentioned, just came alive. Even pulled off a fountain dive for insult and injury all at the end of it. All rather is the way you phrase that sentence. One of these days I'll do English properly. On the other side, we've got a first couple picks over for Resolve. Hovering this Karma, and it is locked in. Flex pick between all 3 lanes, of course, and now we've got to see what it's going to get paired up with. Ezreal Karma's a strong pairing if they did decide to go towards that bot lane duo. A lot of level 1 poke.
Yeah, I mean, interesting one, though, to actually grab the Ezreal here already, because I'm thinking, like, hey, Karma Hecarim, you got yourself a good comp going, but again, Hecarim didn't work out too well last time, so maybe now Resolve are looking to keep their options open, see if they can't get themselves a nice little jungle counter pick, because as you say, Karma Ezreal, very strong lane, and has so much lane control, it does very well versus those kinds of melee engaged champions that you often want to pair with the Kaiser, like the Nautilus. So Delay and High Slot could be having a pretty good time if they can get their poke out nice and early. But at the same time, that lane started off well for Barrage, from level 1, wave 1.
Just seeing a lot of hovers of this Draven, I was like, please lock it in. It would be great, but sadly, no, not happening. Instead, that's a Moo locked in. I'm assuming Hecarim. Proxy pick, and it's literally the moment I say it, indeed, Hecarim is the lock-in. Not a Moo. I'm sad. Almost as sad as the Mummy. Rammus being hovered along with a lot of other junglers by the side of Resolve, and see what they eventually decide to lock in. Still got a couple options to go through. Lilia, I suppose, makes a fair amount of sense. Still a fair amount of priority. The jungle, you can do a lot of work clearing, and you just eat raptors for breakfast. And instead, they'll go towards the Udyr, because that's been the option into Hecarim for the last 3 patches, it feels like.
Yeah, Udyr, he got a little bit nerfed, a little bit weaker than the Hecarim, but you're still enabling him with the Karma quite nicely. And also having that Ezreal means that you can leave Ezreal alone down on his lonesome in the bot lane. or even in the mid lane, and then you have, Udyr and Karma run around as a two-man squad and go and wreak havoc across the rest of the map. So again, Resolve are setting themselves up quite nicely.
Right, so they're feeling pretty content with the speed buffs for sure, but it's still not like Barrage are moving away from their dive compositions. Hecarim, Nautilus, Kai'Sa is a hell of a way to just jump on somebody, that's for sure. It's the same top lane bans, mostly aside from the Scion being taken away from Jojo, who did have a monstrous game on that. Didn't get a call out in the last game, in fairness, but meant to say he uses Unstoppable Onslaught to avoid the set showstopper, makes himself unable to be grabbed out, and that put Set into an awful position without the slam down as well. So he didn't take Scion with him and got blown up by Nether Grasp. So, credit to Jojo for some of those sweet, sweet Scion mechanics. He won't get to show off this game.
Alrighty. Well, at the end of the day, there was a lot of good things going for that last Barrage team composition, and right now it hasn't really changed too much, with the Hecarim filling a very similar slot to the Diana, except now a bit more on the tankier side, but you still got yourself a lot of nice dive. However, again, diving into a Karma, into an Udyr, and now a Sylas could be less than optimal. Sylas was that final pick, which means you've still got a lot of flexibility here in the draft for Resolve. Karma still could go into any of her three positions, top, mid, support, and Sylas could still go mid or top. However, you only really play Sylas top when you have a very specific set of matchups going, and I doubt that Jojo's going to want to pick himself something terrible into that lane, so we can expect to see that Sylas mid.
We've got a bit of an interesting pickup in response there, because that's a Kassadin locked in.
Maybe it will be Sylas top. Maybe because that was... It's not a
Tell
fun
me about
lane for
casting
Sylas.
Sylas. Assuming it's kind of rough.
It's not great, on account of the fact that, Sylas is melee and AP, which are basically the two things that Kassadin says, hey, great, good times.
I can hit you in the face with my giant lightsaber. It's wonderful.
Yeah, he has a good time. And Sylas is like, oh, but I'm going to yoink your ult. Haha. Oh, that's a 2-minute cooldown for a,
a hop.
A 50 damage hop, because I don't think it doesn't even get like the ramped up damage part. It's rough across the board, which is why you don't see a lot of blind pick Sylases. As Renekton was that other champion lock on in, and so we've got to decide where are we sending the Sylas. You got no wins here. It's either going to be versus a Kassadin or Renekton. So Wukong comes on through, meaning that Sylas goes mid, Wukong goes top in a somewhat favourable matchup, and then you're also going to have that Karma now properly locked in as the support.
Of course, Wukong gets a fair amount of armor from his passive, I believe it is, so not so bad in for the Renekton, even if Renekton still could be a bit of a bully early on, of course. And Sylas, he's got a couple of decent ultimates to stealing Depth Charge, Onslaught of Shadows, both big ticket teamfight ults. You'd be happy to pick up either of those. Dominus, probably not Dominus, that was the right word, I had a moment of madness. It is still not a bad one either. So, even if it's not great in terms of the lane matchup, I can see the teamfights potentially working out, but all the same, Barrage, I think they've got themselves another good dive comp.
Yeah, and this comp from Resolve, whilst you don't really want to dive into it too much, at the same time, could be worse, I think the composition that we saw last game was a lot more suited to trying to dissuade that dive, and, what do we see? Barrage did it anyway because they could, and because they had the tools to go in so many times. And that's going to be a little bit scary for Resolve now, but it's sort of just, okay, we've got a Wukong, we've got a tank that might stun you, we've got, Karma shields. It's not a lot. However, also worth noting, this is a Kassadin. That's going to take some time to scale, which you will definitely just get for free versus Sylas, but at the same time, you don't really bring a lot to the table in terms of prio, even versus the Sylas, early on. And then later on into the game, Kassadin's wave clear is... it's not the greatest. He has to kind of commit himself into ult in, and, when you're not level 16, that does give you a window where you can be punished by some sort of engage. So you have to just be a little bit careful with it if you're Necro. This isn't a Malzahar. You're not just putting E on the wave and walking away. Because we did see that last game, even with that kind of wave clear, Necro was still a little bit slow to the plays, or not there at all, in some of, the first 15 minutes of the game or so.
Absolutely, and the thing with Necro here is, if he can survive to that 1-2 item, it's not quite the same because there's no Rod of Ages anymore, so you're not on that, that 10-minute timer that comes through with the completion of it, so it's not quite the same length of scaling anymore. You do come online a little earlier. You still do need some items as Gaston, you really, really do, and you kind of want level 11 on the ult mark if you can help it as well, because it's quite a long cooldown for the rank 1, so I'm going to have to wait and see on that one. At least the Kai'Sa and the Nautilus and the Renekton will offer a bit more priority, although you are into an Ezreal Karma down bot, which I believe your phrasing on Karma that you've told me before is she's a priority machine, was your phrasing.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the thing about Ezreal Karma is you have so much choice in how you want to play the lane. And you're basically saying, if you want prio, you're getting it. If you don't want prio and your jungler is looking to play to topside, that's fine. You can give it up, and you can allow the wave to come into you as slow and as controlled as you want. It's very nice. You don't ever really risk anyone putting in too fast of a crash or something that you're not prepared to handle, because you have so much range and you have the AoE and you have the poke that you need to thin the wave as close
as you plan
as
right?
you need. It's pretty good, but at the same time, you're pretty susceptible to getting dove, and this is a Hecarim, it's a Kai'Sa, it's a Nautilus. You can even bring in the teleports from JoJo. Once again, the Kassadin not really fitting in too much with what Barrage are looking to do, but in isolation, in a vacuum, that 1v1 lane, you're having a good time. And Necro will be scaling up in the side lane, looking to hit that level 16, relatively uncontested, unless important thing to say about that.
Yeah, definitely a few options as casting comes in. You get bear slapped in the face, you probably feel a little bit sad, especially if a double cyclone comes out to back that up. I see your point. That's always the risk with picking casting, right? You're often picking via the enemy's composition rather than necessarily whether it fits into yours, honestly, because casting such a weird champion to fit into in pro play or competitive play, or whatever level you happen to be at, purely because he does kind of require a certain amount of setup and like a few kind of stars to align to get him in. I think he's probably got, as you said, a decent lane matchup, and he's got a few dive buddies with the Kai'Sa and the Hecarim and the Nautilus, so it's not the end of the world, even if there are things like that Udyr and the Wukong that can make him a bit sad in some of those team fights if he gets caught and isolated.
Yeah, he's got a couple of outs here for sure. It's mostly the fact that the Kassadin doesn't really enable the Hecarim early on in such a way that you would like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I suppose like a lot of mid laners with Hecarim, things like the Seraphine or the Orianna who can speed up the Hecarim. And you're right, there isn't really something to back the Hecarim up this time, aside from someone join. He's got a dive buddy, but he doesn't have an Empowerer. He doesn't have like anything close to an enchanter. I think that's a fair shout, in fairness.
It's not even like an enabler. I mean, obviously having an enabler is nice. Hecarim or Orianna, great combo. But you also can pair up very nicely with some sort of bully that can just force prio to allow you to invade the enemy chickens, for example. Especially when you have these tempo farming matchups, and like the Hecarim versus the Udyr. This is why do you pair best with a Taliyah and a Lilia? Well, it's Lucian, it's Tristana. You want someone, preferably of the other damage source, but can bring a lot of push, a lot of prio, and just win the 2v2, even if they're not bringing some sort of buff to enable you. But you look at the Kassadin, and it's like, okay, he's not really bringing prio or wave control or shove, and the early 2 versus 2 with the Hecarim Kassadin versus the Udyr Sylas. Like, yes, the Kassadin's going to ruin the Sylas in lane, but he's not going to do a lot to stop the Udyr and Sylas 2v1ing Hecarim, whilst the Kassadin just kind of watches in the very, very early stages of the game. So there's going to need to be a fair amount of communication coming through from Necro and Sweet Summer Day as to what they want to do with their waves, how Necro's going to make that happen, and how they'll be able to play together, or at least stop Porp and Otter from running over Sweet Summer Day. If this happens, or even better, if Sweet Summer Day can get an early advantage playing alongside Necro, then this game is just smooth sailing for Barrage, but that is going to be a small point of weakness. You get the Kassadin and the Hecarim behind, suddenly now the Renekton's behind, and
everything can cascade from there, absolutely. That fly in the ointment. Double check on that one. Apparently there's something. Oh, wow. What's going on? It seems like my Lapras is firing up its Hyper Beam, I'm assuming. That's slightly terrifying, actually. That's look, I got a word for production. There's something wrong with my camera, and I'm looking around, and I think my Lapras isn't very happy with me.
It was nice to know initialize once he was still alive. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever wondered what it would be like to be a play-by-play caster here at the UKEL, we have a slot coming up real soon.
This is what I get for calling Doctor a bug catcher. Clearly, I've enraged my own team. This is why this is what we spend our production values on, ladies and gentlemen. It's animating, or at least empowering our Pokemon behind the scenes. And I am scared for my life.
This guy.
All right, moving on from that. I was genuinely about to go and unplug my camera, and then I actually looked at the camera and saw what was going on there. I was like, oh, really nice. Well done, Phil. I'll give you that one.
Phil's just so proud of himself.
He is. He's going to be so smug after this. He's just confirmed as well.
Every time I see that smug mid laner's face.
UKEL
smug production man's face.
We love Phil. He's doing great work here at the UKEL, and apparently he's got his way into graphic design as well, because that's some spicy Lapras editing at the moment. It is his passion. Comes with a skill in word art. That's what's really required for that, and a love of the font Comic Sans. Either way, we'll avoid that deep dive into memes past, and instead focus on Barrage versus Resolve Game 2. It's another group up from Barrage early on. The last one was thwarted relatively quickly, but this one might amount to something. Nautilus early on, certainly a pretty terrifying champion. Hampot needs to be aware of the flash. He's going to get flashed on.
Ooh. Do it blind, don't even ward.
He's done it! He's done it! Hampot is absolutely going to be dead to rights. There's the flash now, but Easy Gaming will not be able to find that hook afterwards, but that'll be a flash for a flash. He throws out the Blitzcrank emote, and yeah, that was something. Didn't throw out the dredge line afterwards, that's for sure.
No, he did connect the hook through. But
he did lead, okay.
Just didn't get enough. No one was remotely close enough to follow up on that CC or punish, but trading flashes with Hampot, at the end of the day, that could just be all he wanted, because he's got the Hex Flash for his own laning.
Got dredge line.
Especially if you want to sneak into a bush and then surprise level 2 come out of that one. It just means that Hampot a little bit of a scary situation, especially versus that early Renekton. That once Hampot's got his steel caps, he's chilling. But before then, Jojo could have a little bit of a window, and having the flash down will make that a little bit more scary for Hampot. Of course, had it been Porp that was sitting in that bush, freest kill of your life. But unfortunately for Barrage, they don't get the man with Ghost.
Instead, they will ensure that Wukong is down for flash, and Hecarim starting on the bot side can look to trample down the monkey in the top lane. Especially if Renekton manages the wave well. See how Jojo does. Had a pretty great game last time out on the Scion. A little bit more lane dominant early on this time out. Hampot's going to have to be very aware that he's going to be in dive range or in dive threat in 2 minutes or so time.
Well, at least with the flash off of Easy Game GG, this level 2 spike is a little bit less scary, but delay still not respecting it too much, has to be said. It was almost a repeat of last game, but that minion doing God's work, keeping delay alive, or at least keeping him with a potion, a biscuit, and a heal still up.
That's exactly it. We'll see whether that actually makes all that much. Remember the last time the hook landed, and somehow, some way, the AD carry got out alive and into a 1-for-1 somehow. So, surely it can't happen again, but you never know. All right.
Put it past them. Anything is possible. However, right now it's delay and high slot just pushing this one in. Yourselves a little bit of prio crashing on in that third wave. It's a little slow, and actually the third wave will not hit the tower in time, but doesn't matter. Sweet Summer Day on the bot side of the Sweet Summer Day on the top side of the map. Porp down on the bot side, so the crowd will still be uncontested.
Clears are done well in time for the Scuttle Crab spawns. Scry's Bloom Pop won't spot out anything too crazy, and Caston has managed to get himself a nice early back off here, or was thinking about it, and actually cancels that recall. Just hanging around, making sure his jungler's in a good space, and Hampot getting close to being shoved in the tower. Never mind, we're going to see a gank in mid. Necro and Otter in very deep trouble. Flash away from Gaston. Shove away with a devastating charge by Sweet Summer Day. And Porp now in a spot of bother himself. Going to take a lot of damage. These minions, if nothing else, causing so much chaos. The Phoenix stance does so much work for Otter. It's 2 kills. Otter gets one. Porp gets the other. The mid jungle from Resolve once again showing up in these early games.
That's what we were saying about the 2 versus 2. Yes, the 1v1 is fine for Necro, but once he's overcommitted in there, Porp can come through with the collapse, and Sweet Summer Day has to throw all of his damage just to keep the Kassadin alive, using that fully charged up E to just try and peel to keep Porp away. And then what? The phase rush has been burnt, the ghost has already been burnt, the damage is not there. Meanwhile, Porp has a fully stacked Conqueror, and so when the re-engage comes on through, it's an easy cleanup for Resolve. Getting themselves those early kills and a nice, quick lost chapter picked up for Otter. Really going to help him out when it comes to just putting out some long-range Qs to try and keep that wave cleared as Necro scales on up. And also manages to keep himself his TP available as well, allowing for some shenanigans later on if necessary, as Porp just makes sure that Handbot can crash this wave.
Yeah, I think he was spot on a ward back down in lane, so Jojo isn't going to be feeling too worried right here. There it is. Thank you, Phil. And just sort of sits around with a slight early game gold lead to Resolve. Similar sort of deal to last game, though. You kind of have to wait for those mid and late game team fights, because that was where Barrage came alive last time round.
There was a little bit of a lull, I think, in that sort of like 15 to 20 minute mark. Too much was going on from either side, but after that, Barrage very confident in what they were doing, and 2 kills early on is pretty nice, but it really is that sort of 500 gold going over Ava, because we can see we got that CS lead up in the top lane, but Jojo managed to get himself off the back lane, and obviously Handbot having to be very respectful. But let's see a level 6 hit in the mid lane. Necro now pretty much immortal, be having a relatively good time. And Handbot's flash is now available as well, although he has gone for the early sheen, delaying those plated steel caps a bit, and so Jojo still relatively strong up in that 1 versus 1.
Indeed, and that could potentially be problematic. Of course, she's going to have to see whether the punish comes through. It didn't early on, partly because, of course, Sweet Summer Day and Necro had that unfortunate 2v2 in mid lane, which meant that the Hecarim couldn't really turn up to punish just the way they liked. All the while, though, Sweet Summer Day and Easy Game GG will find their way to an early Infernal Drake, and it looks like it's going to be unscouted or at least uncontested.
Yeah, not too contestable, because Porp having to put so much attention up to the top side, and there's a big wave coming on through for Jojo as well there, now extending his CS lead out to be about 2 waves, which is pretty nice. That's almost a solo kill.
Pretty good going there.
Pretty happy with where he's at, as big damage in that mid lane. Every time the electrocute is up, Necro wants to be taking those trades. Although, the lower health Otter is, the more he's going to be healing from the Kingslayer, so can't be too deceived. That's the state of that lane as Porp walks on into a jungle that is not up, wasting a little bit of time, and well, as you see now, those wolves are just about to respawn, so Porp, not the happiest window. But if Necro gets a little bit cocky here and takes his ultimate in to try and wave clear, thinking he's safe, that could be an opportunity for Porp, who is just standing around busy waiting for those
definitely not
camps.
Udyr, it's just a bear in the jungle, by the way. You can
this
see.
is a risky one.
He's going to throw in that
know,
best one more time, looking to get there. Oh boy, this is going to be a disaster. Onslaught of Shadows is stolen though, but it's turned around, and it turns out the original is better than the copy. Silas dies for a second time this game. In comes a true shot Barrage, flying the Samsung colours. It's too little, it's too late, and Resolve find a second kill. Or rather, Resolve or Barrage rather find their first kill.
You see Porp lurking around beside, trying to make that one happen, but it's a Kassadin. He's only really going to be gankable if he makes the mistake, and then they don't have the cover, they don't know that Easy Game GG is there to turn it around, and even though they're very close to getting that kill onto Sweet Summer Day, the turnaround is there once you get that Spirit of Dread coming through, get that healing going on up, and start to close out this gold lead. In fact, bring a gold lead in their favor again, just because of the CS leads that we see not only in the top lane, but now also in the jungle as well. There's a couple of camps have been stolen away, and as Porp has been a little bit less efficient with his pathing. However, he has still got, like 3 camps up on the top side to go and grab at some point. But that means that Sweet Summer Day will be first on the trigger here, able to grab that Rift Herald.
Doing pretty well. Going to get both early objectives. Has a CS lead on top of that. Of course, that early 2v2 didn't go too great. That later little skirmish in the mid lane, though, went much better for them. So, considering you were just sort of saying, look, NSE Finals, Porp kind of had his way with Summer Day. Feeling a little bit like Sweet Summer Day, doing really well, particularly in this early game over here, despite an initial fumble in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think a lot of the issues that we saw from Sweet Summer Day in that NSE Finals was things like playing frontline Lilia. So it happened a lot in one of the Lilia games that he played, where it was No, it was just a bit more far up than you wanted. And that was partially of the draft. With Lilia, you really want to have like a frontliner, and if you don't, because she's so short range, it can be very dangerous. But when you're here on the Diana, on the Hecarim, it's a little bit different. You're not as at risk there. As right now, Porp is looking to dive on bot, but he was spotted out just a bit by a ward earlier, and now he's found out.
He is going to be found out. He's still pretty tanky. The exhaust comes through. That's the depth charge, but down comes Heiselot. They're thinking about going in on that. Phoenix Dance thrown out. Actually, the plasma stacking around could be dangerous. Otter, though, is roaming. The poke was certainly doing its work in the bot lane. Biochipmunk and Easy Game GG will eventually be forced away. Burnt the ultimate on the Nautilus and the Ignite, and I believe it, and the exhaust from Biochipmunk didn't get the kill. Didn't even really force Udyr away from the camp, so I'm not quite sure whether I'd call that a worthwhile trade.
Didn't want to force him away from the camp. Those Krugs actually put in a lot of work to keeping Porp alive, because they're targets for the Acathian Rain. I mean, the Bio can't really drop that ability without, you know, most of the damage going onto something that isn't Porp, and it does mean that Porp ends up getting away with that one with his life, and as you say, blowing those important cooldowns. And so, Easy Game GG to say, you know, don't have the exhaust bot, don't have the Ignite, let's just see if we can't do something mid, or at least help Necro push this wave on in, as we maybe set up some vision, waiting for the dragon to spawn in just 1 minute.
Indeed. Herald, that was taken earlier as well, now summoned in mid. Possibly a little earlier than perhaps you would like to give pressure for the dragon, but it'll get plates onto Necro, which is always a dangerous sign. He's close enough to get them. That goes on to the Hecarim and the Kassadin. Two people who would love to have that gold nice and early. Get yourself to that Hecarim mythic very nice and early on. Kassadin as well. He's not really been put behind. You got the 1 kill on him early on, but that's been it, and he's even to a head in CS now.
Yeah, he's pretty happy with where he wants to be, and as we said, that's sort of what we could expect even after. That's pretty unlucky 2 versus 2, as Porp really wants to contest this grab and realizes maybe he can't, has to run out as Delay lurking as well. Easy game, nearly caught out.
That's going to be the chain, but the turnaround. Otter gets a lot of healing with the Kingslayer. It's not bad, but Spirit of Dread doing the exact same for Sweet Summer Day. Teleport's now coming through. Easy game. GG lands a max range. Jojo finds his way into the back line and calls the Meek. It's a double for the Crocodile already. Ezreal gets some back, so Delay doing the best he can, but Biochipmunk, once again, the killer instincts are good. And what is it with Jojo and Chipmunk around these dragon fights? Absolutely going berserk.
Just have to put some respect on Jojo and Chipmunk right now. The way that they're cleaning up these fights. You know, last time for Jojo, had to hit that 2 items, had to get the Titanic on the Scion, but this time around it's Renekton. You're coming online a lot earlier, and they're able to clean out that fight. Catching out Porp and Otter early on makes it a very rough fight for Resolve, playing on the back foot, trying to kite out. Not sure if they want to commit or not, and that means the Barrage able to take over, clean that one up, grab themselves a second Drake, and move on to an Ocean Rift, which is pretty good for a Renekton and a Hecarim. Even a Kassadin, if they can get themselves that Ocean Soul, it'll be very much a done deal. So Resolve gonna need to step it up when it comes to this Drake defense as this game goes on.
Absolutely. 3 kills for Jojo now. He's feeling very happy with that strike breaker. At least Resolve got a couple kills back themselves, so it wasn't a complete wash. Ezreal now 1-0-1, got himself an Essence Reaver, so there are some moments of brightness, but even so, it's second Drake down, it's another skirmish come team. Well, honestly, skirmish, that's a team fight at that point, loss. And it is starting to... I'm feeling like I've seen this script before, Doctor. We saw it last game. Early competitiveness from Resolve, but then slowly, just slowly, these team fights start edging more and more in the favor of Barrage.
It's not a great spot for Resolve, and it's only going to get more and more in Barrage's favor as Jojo. He might just take the 2v1 here.
He's going to try for it. He's got himself a fully stacked Rage Bar. The Cold Make is decent. He's got Strike Breaker as well. That damage is absolutely foul. Second Cyclone comes through. Not quite enough, but that was so close to Sweet Summer Day being able to get in there and turn it around. He is going to try and come through, but won't get the shove back because of a well-timed Bear Slap. Now Otter is around, can look to hijack an ultimate and maybe cause a little bit more chaos. But in the end, it's just the kill onto Jojo. The Crocodile finally gets shut down.
Managing to pick that one up. It looked a lot better for Jojo early on, but once he drops that heal with that fully stacked Column onto 3 targets.
Necro now in a spot of bother.
Oh, that's a long range.
Pulled out! Otter Stylish moves from the mid laner. In comes Easy Game GG, but now he's in trouble. It's a 2v1 double for Silas. You can't out-heal him. He's going to get that one as well. The Ignite not quite enough, and now Porp thought about going on to Hecker him under the tower, but won't quite get close enough. And it's another couple goes of fire. Chipmunk on the other side of the map. Gets himself a kill onto the Ezreal.
Yes, that's a rough one for Barrage, has to be said. They said Bio managing to bring it back a little bit on the bot side, but unfortunately the highly controversial one at a time strat was employed up in that top lane, and did mean a lot of kills going over to Resolve. Again, buying time for Handball and Porp. Now, has to be noted that Porp not going for your classic Chem Tank plus Lucidity boots setup. Instead, just going for that full-on Sunfire, getting a fair bit more damage, but will be lacking in the utility department. And now, once Handpot has finished up that Sundera, you can be looking towards those places. Steel Caps, so this lane going to get a fair bit harder for Jojo. And with the kills going over to Otter as well, Necro not exactly where he wants to find this lane, but last game, strong enough early game for Resolve. But as we got around to the 15-minute mark and beyond, Barrage were able to find themselves a lead. Level 11 picked up for Necro. Big spike for any Kassadin player, and that could be demonstrated at this fight.
Onslaught Shadows is timed out by an Onslaught
That's
Shadows.
an Ezreal.
Ain't that a sentence? Delay finds a massive true shot Barrage, but Ezreal and Wukong are doing the work at the back end of this fight. In goes Otter again, and now Bio has to find their way around. He's going to find a Wukong on top of him. Easy game, GG goes down to the Ezreal as well. And that is a big, big win for the side of Resolve, who get a 4-for-1. They lose the jungler, so maybe it's a bit risky to go for the Herald. But they still get the team fight win. And that is now a significant gold lead over to the Resolve boys.
Yeah, a lot different to the last game. Winning out that fight. And on this point where Necro should have been pretty strong, but again, kills coming out across the board for Resolve, getting that scaling going. Don't grab the Herald quite just yet, but that Ocean Dragon will be coming up in just 40 seconds. And well, we said that Resolve would have to do a fair bit to keep the Dragons in their favor, not let Barrage move towards that soul point, and winning a fight so decisively just before that objective spawns does spell pretty good things for Resolve. As with that dragon coming up, you know, the Onslaught of Shadows might not be available in time. And if Resolve can force a fight right now before it is, and they can get a good pick, they can grab themselves this dragon. But Handpot coming in through, looking for a flank, maybe trying to get it started, but that Cyclone not quite available, and now he doesn't have the clone either, which is a pretty important part of Wukong's kit, but he's still in position for a good flank if necessary. Porp maybe overstepping, but a lot of respect put towards him.
And we'll see, still got Wukong on the side, but he's been spotted out. Can't get rid of the vision. Those wards are pretty good, but now Jojo gets slowed down. Does manage to slice and dice his way away from trouble, but they're chased out of the river. Kai'Sa, all the while, has been going at that mid lane tower and does nearly secure it. Does so now. That's now 2 turrets to none. That happened the last game as well. And instead, in goes Porp. Otter gets knocked up by the dredge line, getting stunned up. Goes Golden, buys time. He's going to need a massive heal, but Bio has already got one. He's shot down his Otter by Kassadin. It's a 2-for-2 right now, but Porp can't stay alive. Delay can't get close enough. Jojo heals his way out, and it's a triple kill for the 0 and 4 Kassadin. It could not get worse. Delay will not manage to pick up the reaction at the end of it either. Tell me, Harry, what the hell happened there?
Oh, it went pretty well for Barrage, getting 3 kills onto the Kassadin. Not what you want to see for Resolve. Delay losing the flash as well. And it's just a little bit disjointed from Resolve. The CC not being layered as it needs to be, and that means that Bio can come on in, dash through to the backline, take out some of those more priority threats, and then bait all of the CC onto them, meaning that Necro can come in and clean up the damage that was put out by Jojo, by Sweet Summer Day, and by Chipmunk. Go ahead and grab that triple and the Ocean again. Now Barrage on that spooky soul point. Resolve really, really cannot afford to give that one over.
Water's rising, and high tide is only 4.5 minutes away. Barrage at Ocean Soul Point. They have now got the Kassadin online. Was 0-4, is now 3-4. And there's a massive shift at the end of that team fight. Yes, the Silas is still strong. Yes, this Ezreal, now 3-1-3, is also a threat. But it's even in gold, and they've got to face down the rest of the game with this huge Drake discrepancy. And once again, they've still not claimed any outer towers, Harry. Doctor, what is going on? Resolve struggling with these structures.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of just have to right-click them, so... That's
some serious, like, old-school Korean advice memes there. Just right-click the towers, mate.
Just kill the Nexus. But it is pretty hard for Resolve right now. Because they're so scared of Sweet Summer Day, of Easy Game GG, who has been sort of all over the map here. Anytime that someone tries to walk up in that mid lane, there has been a collapse coming on through. And with Bio being in a pretty strong spot, obviously Necro in a great spot now.
Ooh,
it's hard
Bio
to get those towers as Bio just
through the exhaust, 2v1s as a teleport, he's gonna get another! Oh. No way! The flash as well, he'll die for it! But maybe not, he's still got an exhaust! The Onslaught of Shadows gets him away! Bio's alive! This chipmunk's inhuman! Handpot finally gets the kill, but will surely fall to the Ignite, and he will get a second one back! But it's a 3-for-2 in the end. Barrage just styling. That was just nasty stuff out of the AD carry.
And that's why they haven't taken any towers yet. Because even 2 versus 1, Delay and Heistlock get absolutely rinsed by Chipmunk. Dashing on in, picking up that 1 kill, punishing Delay for the wasted flash earlier. And almost getting out alive because, just as we said, Easy Game GG and Sweet Summer Day are sort of all over the map. Collapsing on plays like that, punishing Resolve when they try to step up, and it's just more and more gold going over to Barrage, more levels going over to Necro, more items for Bio Chipmunk, and 2 minutes for that Dragon spawn. Resolve should be pretty worried right about now.
Near enough mirrored items in the inventories of both of these mid laners. It's the tier difference for Necro, and that's about it right now. Both top laners coming towards their second items. AD carries are at their second items. Still got about 1.5 minutes till this Ocean Drake, so still time for a few more completions to come through. And he's starting to have again his Barrage, but just pulls the trigger again! Same play, same place, same result.
I mean, at some point, they say lightning never strikes twice in the same place, but Bio Chipmunk's not running Electrocute, so Delay, you gotta start putting a little bit of respect over onto that Kai'Sa, because Bio has proven that he will dash in, as you said, the exact same space. Maybe this could be to Bio Chipmunk's disadvantage if the members of Resolve want to stack up in the area and try and take him out when he goes on in, but ultimately, it's just 1 minute for that Dragon. Delay says, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. It's jungle diff, but the third time may not come through, because that Dragon's coming up.
Absolutely, just Bio Chipmunk really feeling it. This is 2 mid to late games in a row where this guy has been absolutely styling on kids. Necro shoving in this top side, or Kassadin, now at 4-4-4. Looking to come in for another tower. Already 4 of those as well. That's feeling like the number at the moment. As maybe Porp face checks here. Because the problem with your AD carry dying twice near his tier 2 in mid means you do not get any chance to put vision in. And forcing your way into the river could be an absolute horror story for Resolve here.
Yeah, well, Resolve do have to prior right now. Push yourself up. Still not able to take the tower, but that is by no means their priority right now.
Potter now in trouble, does get engaged on the Onslaught of Shadows, leaves him dead to rights. The fear means he can't get enough healing off. Delay goes down as well. Jojo heals up with another fantastic Cold and Meek and gets his way out. Handpot is buying space but will still go down. Chipmunk gets that one. Jojo gets the other bot lane. A Porp as well. It's a clean damn ace. And they can look for pressure in mid. They can say screw the Ocean Soul. In fact, they'll just send Jojo to do that while the rest of the members of Barrage go and take down the Baron. All guns armed, all guns firing, and the Barrage hits home.
And Resolve had to try something. They had to take that fight, but Barrage too strong at that time. Yeah, the focus is not there. It's a little bit split up from Resolve. You see so many low health bars across the board for those Barrage members, but they find themselves out the Ace, the Baron, probably the Soul as well. It's a good attempt by Delay, you know, almost picking up that kill onto Jojo, but the Soul is secured. And now, if you're Resolve, what can you do? Risotto doesn't even find out that kill.
Oh, that is sad to watch. Well, that is another ace into a Baron, into a Dragon. Pretty much a mirror of the same time. I think it's like 3 minutes earlier from the 27-minute mark or so it was last game. Barrage ended it fairly swiftly from there. They found themselves a 6k gold advantage. They have Ocean Soul. They have a Kaiser and a Castin who are well online. Father and daughter are absolutely here to style. Castin's not even here yet. He finally teleports in and he'll turn up. It's take your kids to work day. Chipmunk doing a lot of work in this one, and Sweet Summer Day as well. Feeling it in these later stages.
Necro taking Dio to work and taking Resolve to school, it would seem, as this tower soon to fall. I mean, now, at any point, Easy Game GG is ready to drop his name in all chat and just engage onto whoever oversteps. Hampot looking for a potential flank, but this 3 versus 5, not really the most one for Resolve. Let's wait for the spawns to come on through, as Delay just got a couple of seconds. The inhib does fall, but Hampot looks.
And goes that. Hampot on for Wukong, trying to get something, but just doesn't get enough. Chipmunk goes on a rampage. Isolot now absolutely eviscerated by the Castin jumping in. And that is another 3 dead. Otter and Delay stay alive for now. But I don't know how much they can do in the face of all of these minions. Bio flashes forward. Killer Instinct as well, not quite enough range to get the final kill. They might look for another fountain dive. It might not be done yet. Leagues, Vader and Daughter looking to continue to pad the KDA stats. 8, 2 and 10 this time. Ha! Nautilus just walks onto the fountain there. Otter jumps his way off, gets slowed down, goes golden.
What a mate.
Jojo falls well. Crab Rave! The Crocodile is gone, but so will Resolve, and Barrage take home a clean late game victory in 2 swift games. Doctor, you appear to have gone to the dark side.
It is not. I just thought it's not that dark in this room. Has to be said. Let's go ahead and just crank that one up a bit. But it's pretty bright in here. I don't know, but what a game.
You're the shining light in that room now. That's what it is.
I didn't see the sun, but what a game from Barrage. Again, early on, Resolve having a decent enough time, sure. Looking pretty good. But as we go on through to basically the 15-minute mark onwards, Resolve were coordinated, they're together, you know, they have that jungle AD synergy. And you got Jojo as well up in that top lane, playing a bit more of a carry role this time around, and we saw exactly how that went in the fights. Just led to, honestly, just a pretty clean game across the board.
Yeah, again, it was a bit closer in the early games. I think Paw Panotta did a really good job in their 2v2s in mid, trying to come out to lead. You know, the Silas and the Hecarim did get quite scary at some points. You know, we saw some moments, particularly around that top lane tower where everyone filed in one by one. You thought, okay, well, maybe there's a chance here. And once again, it's around these mid-game Drakes, it's around these late-game sort of team fight setups, objective setups, that Barrage were just pulling the trigger and getting such good results, consistent kill advantage, and eventually just full team-wide aces.
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough one. A rough one for Resolve, who unfortunately now find themselves out of this here Proving Grounds, you know, without picking up a win. Wait, no, we've got a lower bracket? We have a lower bracket, right?
There is a lower bracket final,
They're not
absolutely.
out of it. They're not out of it. Yeah.
No,
so they got a chance.
More to show you. Absolutely. Again, and like, it's important to note, yes, they haven't got the game wins in there, but Resolve were competitive. There were moments of brightness. They had opportunities to take some of these mid-game advantages and find their way to some victories. Again, it was a really short turnaround. You know, a day to fix everything is very difficult for however long you've been together. Never mind a pickup squad where maybe the synergies just aren't quite there. Naturally, you've got to work on them. So, you know, let's not take too much away from this squad. You know, they definitely came up to play, but Barrage, on the other hand, chipmunk in those mid and late game fights. Like the Kaiser and catching out the Ezreal a few times, great stuff there. We saw what Sweet Summer Day as well was doing on the Hecarim, looking really content in that one. Jojo on the Renekton as well. Some stylish moments. You know, good stuff from Barrage in general.
Yeah, I'll see Chipmunk tearing it up on that Kaiser. You have to wonder if we'll be given that one again. Coming through on... what day is it going? What day is it going to be? Thursday? Friday.
There we go. Keep your eyes out for that day.
Coming on in. But,
okay. I'm glad you had the dates up in front of you because I don't. So I'm glad you managed that one. Thank you, buddy. And they'll be taking on the victor of either London or, of course, Demise, who will be playing relatively soon as well. Yeah. So whoever wins out of that one can come forward. There are the other 2, 2, and 1 teams, and they'll be looking down a potential rematch with Barrage in the finals.
Yeah, and should be noted, last time London and Demise played each other, London did take the win, and London are higher up in the standings, having another slightly faster game time. So, you know, if anyone wants to get some channel points in the game, that could, well, you know, be 2 indicators of how that series may go. But, you know, to find out and to earn those sweet, sweet channel points, you're going to have to rock up on Thursday. That one actually is on Thursday. Same time as today, 6 o'clock BST, when those 2 teams will be facing off in another best of 3.
Well, at this point, I think it is time. Congratulations again to Barrage for some great mid and late game plays. Commiserations to Resolve, who came to play, looked much improved, but sadly did fall 0-2. So from your 2 wannabe Pokemon trainers here, we'll bid you good night, and I'll hope Lapras doesn't kill me in my sleep. See you around, guys.